I know that you've all been prepared for this, but I thought I'd just remind you just the same.
Can you handle that, Blondie?
Game over, man. Game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
It was pure evil.
I want to buy some radio ad time.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel and Vinnie.
We got Karen Mack in the back. This is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. Let's get to it, motherfuckers. Alright, Noel, 'tis the season.
Tis
the season for horror and slashing and gorishness.
October is officially the start of our Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Like I heard someone say, like September is Halloween Eve or October Eve.
Yeah,
or something.
absolutely.
Like,
yeah,
and like during this month, like we planned a lot of shit. We've taken a break from Dark Side because we just want to pound out the fucking horror content over the next few weeks. And we decided like the best way to do this is to jump from location to location to location, take a few famous stops along the way to some different like fucking little horror locations, starting off with, you know, Derry, Maine.
Maine.
Where else are we going to start off? Like, you know what I mean? The master of horror, Stephen King, like, even though it's literature and like, but there's probably been nobody in modern history or even in history in general that has had their creative works adapted more freely and more often.
well, I think that's a measurable thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's probably fair to say.
Yeah, I think he's had like 62 adaptations. Or
Yeah,
it's been published
absolutely.
60
And don't
something.
forget, like, The Shining has been made, like, you
Twice.
know, twice and things like that.
You know, so like, yeah, and It straight away, that's been made
It's been made twice
Yeah.
and in segments as well. So
Yeah.
1 and 2, yeah. So.
Many of his works have been remade because like he's been so prolific for so long.
What was the one that was just remade there? Amber Heard and Whoopi Goldberg. The Stand.
Oh, The Stand.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was a
TV
90s made for
Was
TV
that good?
movie. I haven't seen it, to be honest with you.
I was
But
gonna
my
cough
better half has, and she was enjoying it. But
Yeah, your man's in it, the Skarsgård.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is actually
yeah,
a cool thing,
yeah.
actually, because
But that's it. He's in with them, obviously.
Yeah,
you know, he's
yeah.
in good with them. But you're absolutely right. Stephen King is a once in a generation.
Yeah.
If that.
he's like a horror Shakespeare or something.
He kind of is.
It's kind of weird, isn't it?
But what we're about to dive into, I think it was such a great concept.
Have you read the book?
Yes,
Have you? Yeah.
I have. I read it back.
It's like 1,000 pages long or something.
It's 1,000 pages long, man.
And is it a good book?
It's a very good book, and it's got a lot of stuff that you couldn't put in a film, quite frankly.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant.
Do you mean in terms of content or pacing?
In terms of content?
Yeah.
There's a sex scene between the losers,
Yeah.
so that they'll remember instead of cutting themselves.
They have an orgy.
They have an orgy with Bev. Yeah, so
That's cool, right?
it's probably yeah. It's like I love it. People kind of came for Stephen King over this, and I was like, yeah. There's also a clown that terrorizes and eats children. But
it's not kids fucking each other, though.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, I dare say that's a bit taboo.
Yeah, but I think the clown itself is spoiling innocence, but when you have kids spoiling their own innocence...
Excellent point.
You know what I mean? Like,
Excellent
I think
point.
that's the total difference.
I'll actually give you that. Yeah, no, I don't have a counterpoint to that.
Especially because, like, when you have such a wholesome group, like the way they're portrayed in the movies, maybe it's different in the books, 'cause I never read the books, but I've seen
in the books
original.
it was kind of like Beverly kind of knew that this is something a boy will always remember. It would be their first time.
Yeah, their first orgy.
No, I don't think it was at all. So I think that was it. Like
something a boy will first remember, their first DP.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's like Stephen King, just chill for a second. Think about how's his editor pass that off. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah, he's editor. He's editor does what he's fucking told. It's Stephen King.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, but like, you know.
But no, it's a great book, and it has. I mean, I thought Pennywise
just maybe
was
make it 950 pages long. Leave out the kid orgy.
yeah. Just like, you know, the hepatitis C bottle. What's wrong with a scar in the hand? You know,
A scar in the hand leads to two in the bush. What? Like when we were growing up, one of the most fucking fearsome things that was on TV that we could see, like especially in Ireland.
Oh God!
Like the choices we have now are far flung from the choices we had back then.
That's very, very true.
And one thing we did have though was the It miniseries.
Yes.
And Pennywise...
Quite frequently.
Yeah, exactly. Pennywise, portrayed by Tim Curry, fucking scared the shit out of many a kid, like our
Me
generation.
amongst them.
Yeah, like our generation, like there's only like 15 years between us, like, and you as young adults seeing this, and like you were scared, and I was a child at the time.
Yeah, fucking fair. I am older, but no, this film scared the shit out of me. I'm not afraid to admit it. Like that's bad as a kid.
Yeah.
I always just again, like I mean, we were talking just an hour ago about bad guys in movies that are based on belief.
Yeah.
Like there's Freddy Krueger, there's Candyman, and there's Pennywise, the dancing clown. And I just thought like Pennywise was like the waking version of Freddy, where he could literally just walking through your daily life, he can change the entire world around you. And he was just such a terrifying entity. And I always loved, even now, even though Skarsgård did such an amazing job, I always loved Tim Curry's just dead. But I actually just think, what's wrong, Georgie? You know what I mean? He just had this great. He just seemed very human, if not a bit goofy. While Skarsgård always seemed supernatural and creepy to me. But so that was what was just he was so psychotic. Yeah, it was a scary film growing up, man.
Yeah,
and
it was a high bar for us, like.
But you know, like we complain about everything being remade, but I was excited about this remake. I have to say, like.
Especially when you hear Warner Brothers are doing it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And originally, Cary Fukunaga, who did True Detective, was attached to it, and then he fell away. He's got a screenwriting credit still. And, like, Andy Muschietti took over, the guy who's actually going to do the new Flash movie, Flashpoint. But, like, so it was a bit of a tumultuous kind of, like, production process. But, like, to hear someone like Warner Brothers were going to fund, like, a high-level horror movie... It doesn't happen very often, like, you know, like if it wasn't made then, it was probably would have been Blumhouse who probably would have done it eventually, like, you know what I mean?
For a quarter of the price.
Yeah, exactly, you know, and it probably would.
And this had production value.
Yeah.
This did, it did have high production value.
Yeah, and that's one thing about it. It was such a crisp, like, I couldn't say superhero movie, but it was such a crisp horror movie though, like, you know what I mean? And that's one thing, you can feel the budget.
So many great set pieces.
Yeah, like, but you can actually, you can feel the quality of it, you know, like, you know, I think it will, chapter 1 will age really well. Like, you know, when you watch a lot of movies from your era and you're like, how will that look in 10 years' time? Even
trying to look at it through the lens of its time.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And the fact that the 35 million looks like it was spent. You know, that kind of...
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, and there's few things that horror movies that rarely have is a big budget. Like, you know, most horror movies are made between 10, 15 million tops. Like, maybe you get a Quiet Place that pushes into maybe a 20 million zone, if even. Like, and to have a $35 million horror movie and to actually see that fucking money put on the screen, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what the thing I got excited for when I was building this up. It's like, it was so scary as a TV miniseries when I had, like, very small budget, obviously, like, you know what I mean? In comparison to a high level, well, like a mid-level blockbuster, like a 30, 40 million dollar picture, like, you know what I mean? And that's when I got really excited. And then Cary Fukunaga was attached to it, and I loved True Detective season 1. I was like, oh, this is gonna be amazing. And then, like, when I heard he fell away, I was like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? And then, like, when I see the first trailer, I was like, nice.
I remember the first time I seen Pennywise.
Yeah.
The new, you know, from behind the balloon, his face, and he's got the smile that kind of goes up by his eyes, up into his forehead, the makeup. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, and it's a very dark rendition of him.
I think Clown, there's a movie called Clown from a few years ago, and I think that had a big effect on the aesthetics of Pennywise and how he looks.
Yeah, I remember the Clowns, he had this really gargantuan smile, teethy smile.
Yeah, exactly, and the suit looked like it was from, like, the 1950s, really old.
Because Tim Curry actually just looked like a clown.
Yeah, like a 1980s clown, like a 1990s clown.
Absolutely, like a clown you've seen, very, very colourfully clothed, big red nose and all that kind of stuff. And obviously this was just a complete...
Like nearly Victorian.
Yeah, exactly.
With the big frilly colours
with the darker kind of brown, kind of
like a real grey
palette of the brown, the grey kind of
like
palette.
He actually nearly looks like the image is taken in black and white.
Yes,
and the colour was added to his hair afterwards.
Yes,
I think that's why it pops so much off him. The red streaks along his eyes and the orange hair and the red nose, because everything around it's a palette of, like, white and greys and browns.
You're not wrong.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's like and I love that in the black and white photos where you see the hair still coloured and stuff like that. Like, and I think that's the kind of the feel they were looking for. That is like when you see a picture of a clown from like 100 years ago or some shit, and they're like, "That's supposed to entertain motherfuckers." You know what I mean? Well, entertain me in my nightmares.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it was such a great story. The losers were fantastic, and I just thought the set pieces were fantastic.
Yeah,
but I really just thought that the chemistry that existed between them, and even the introduction of Ben and Mike and Bev, who weren't originally losers, you know.
Yeah.
I just thought it all felt so organic. Like, you can do the horror stuff The studio can just do that. They need very little to work with. Just say, what do you want? Like sewer monsters, and do you want this spectacle? Do you want the sky to open? They can do that, but you need a solid story. And I just thought that when they got the chemistry right with the kids, I just thought it was such a smooth landing
like,
for the
it should
entire
have
film.
a feel of Stand By Me or Goonies.
It did have that.
But in a horror world.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's when you're successful. And that's why the second one, not to jump ahead, lacked a little bit.
It did, yeah.
Because when you're looking back, like some of my favourite movies when I was a kid, and that's probably why I love Stranger Things now, is when you have that kid adventure story and you have like a group of kids that are like, you know, fucking making handmade radios and all this fucking home defense shit, and they're up against this fucking like supernatural entity or whatever, and the kids have to figure it out, and it's unbelievable. It's not the kind of thing you go tell your parents. It's not like you just got molested in school or something. You go, I tell my parents and they'll believe you.
And they can do something about it.
But I go and say,
well.
I can't say, hey, I'm being terrorized by the supernatural clown and maybe 100 years old and lives off fear. He lives in this dungeon. He only appears to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Actually,
So it comes to a stage where it's so unbelievable you have to deal with it yourself.
Yes.
And that's what I love about in Stranger Things was the same thing. Like you have the Demogorgon at the start, and it was so unbelievable.
Yeah.
That came to the stage where the kids had to deal with it.
A bunch of kids that you were really rooting for.
Yeah,
That was the
like,
Goonies. The list goes on. Like,
and I think the success of Stranger Things is the reason Finn Wolfhard is in this. The guy who plays Mike.
No doubt about it. Yeah,
he plays Mike.
I'm sure they inquired about him. As opposed to him, like
they said
in a waiting room with 50 other people.
When he came back for the following season of Stranger Things, that seemed he was cursing like a motherfucker because of all the cursing he was doing.
Really?
They're saying like
he learned the bad words.
Yeah, he was like he had a real potty mouth when he came back. He was just cursing like a motherfucker. But he's one of my favorite characters over the two movies. Is
Richie? Played by Bill Hader and Finn Wolfhard. Both played excellently. Yeah, and of course he was that. You know, he was that guy. And you always need that person who doesn't cheapen the story by making a joke at an inopportune moment.
But he's the skeptic.
He was trash mouth.
Yeah, and he was a skeptic as well.
And he was
because he was the last one to see Pennywise.
He was the last one. Yeah.
Do you remember what he said? He was like, "What, does he only appear to virgins or something?"
Yeah, is that why I haven't seen him? Yeah. He got some great lines.
Yeah, man. Some of the back and forth though between the kids is so fucking good.
Between Eddie and him, it was always about his mother. My mother's slippers smell of potpourri. And how would you know?
Do you remember when Eddie like breaks his arm and shit? And it's like, and it's like the one's like, let me sign that, and it's like loser.
And he tried to change it to lovers. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, but that was weren't they all like the thing is between Stanley and Ben and Bill, they were all very different characters.
Yeah,
there was no overlap.
Yeah,
not to say like there was innocence to the Mike. There was.
And Stanley was terrified the entire time.
Stanley was literally terrified.
And that's what I love about his character as well, because he's like literally bawling his eyes out before he goes into the house near the end.
Yeah.
And it's like, could you imagine how terrified you are and you have to, at the start, and you have to go and do it, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like, what to say, like bravery is doing something when you're not afraid, but courage is doing something even though you are afraid or something.
Exactly, yeah. Well, that's it. Like, to not be afraid would be just foolhardy. It's not courage,
exactly,
you know. It's
because even Richie wasn't afraid, but as soon as he seen the missing poster,
that's
me, because you can't explain that, like, you know what I mean, like, you know. And I think that's the thing, like, because at that stage, like, Eddie had seen the leper kind of guy, that poor Eddie.
Poor Eddie
got getting like vomited on and shit, like.
Poor Eddie got bad, man. He got real bad. Over the two films now that I think about it.
Yeah, like really bad.
Really bad. Just Stephen King was saying at one time, he goes, you know what, I know I'm too deep in to get rid of him, but I really hate this fucking Eddie character.
It's like Eddie, shut the like all the bad stuff happens to Eddie now.
All the bad stuff happens to Eddie.
Eddie and Stanley are the weak links.
And
that's what makes Pennywise stronger. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's the thing, like, because that's why Stanley didn't come back in part 2. Not
that's because I remember the note at the end. But in this first part, I thought it was crazy that without cheapening the story or without going off track, that it managed to there were losers trying to get through school at the same time as being terrorized by an ancient, nameless evil of world devouring proportions, and always felt smooth to me. I cared about. I almost would have watched the film with these kids without the Pennywise. I liked the chemistry. They were funny.
But the thing is, though, like, because you're a kid, it's more believable to you, maybe.
Yeah,
because you might believe in a monster beyond your bed. Or
that's what I remember with Georgie at the start.
Dumb fucking kid.
Jesus. But that's what I was saying. Like with Georgie at the start, if an adult sees a clown in a sewer drain, you're just kind of going, "No, thank you, clown."
Yeah. if anybody sees anyone in a sewer drain,
Yeah.
like I'm like if my kid got taken by someone that lived in a sewer drain, I'd be like, you probably could have done better.
Yeah,
you probably could have done.
Yeah.
There's mitigating circumstances.
I know this is probably a sensitive moment for you, but
it's like, I've got you back from the sewer man now, but the fact that I had to get you back from a sewer man, really disappointed in you. Really disappointed.
I remember just thinking at the first Pennywise was very human, just a clown. He was, but this one you're thinking only a kid could fall for it.
Yeah.
Where he was making like popcorn, pop, and he was so obviously creepy. He was so he was freaky for you, the viewer. And
go on, Josie.
Yeah,
it's like, I'd rather not.
Bill's gonna kill you.
Yeah,
great line.
But man, Bill Skarsgård, my God, this is legendary. Like,
oh, it's epic.
This
epic.
is like probably. I don't want to. Maybe he's on a par with nearly Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. Like,
oh yeah, no, yeah.
Some of the lines are so often
Robert
now,
Englund did it in '84, and it's iconic. And Skarsgård did it 4 years ago, which is in cinema can be a long time, but hasn't quite got to the iconic. But I really do feel this is going to be an age like milk. It's going to age like a fine wine. His actual performance,
no
matter how
it's
it's viewed,
and even when they did the special effects, they were never so gaudy that they'll age poorly.
Yes,
like the only the big ones really came in part 2, apart from him coming out of the projector. Do you remember in part 1 where he came out of the projector and he's like stomping around?
Oh, and huge. His head is massive.
Exactly. That scene's really cool though.
That scene's very cool.
Yeah.
I actually remember I went to the loo in the cinema. I went
the
to
loo.
The loo. I don't know why you said it. I wish I'd said the Jacks.
You went to the Louvre.
But I went to the Jacks and I came back and my missus was just said, "Oh, you just." She goes, "I can't believe you left then," because it was that scene with the projector.
Yeah,
and she said she was like, "I just came out of the screen and it was. I'll tell you there, it was just fantastic." Yeah, I was like, "Fuck."
Yeah, and I hold it. If I need to go outside in the cinema, I'll hold it.
Yeah, no, I always, I always get a really big Coke with a tiny bladder.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really
Rookie
work
mistake.
out.
That's why I switched up to the water, as you know, when I was watching Candyman. That's where you got
Really?
the water, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't flow through you quite the same.
Yeah, and you don't need to drink as often to get rehydrated either.
Yeah,
obviously. Whereas Coke,
yeah.
you're just slurping on it, like.
Yeah. But I loved it. It had, that's what I was saying, it had set pieces that were so fantastic, but the film wasn't writ to just have, like they make a bad funny film and they just put in like 3 good jokes and like that should carry it. But this film had these set pieces, but it had enough love in the actual context to carry it into these set pieces.
I think something that you mentioned there is kind of interesting and shows the strength of the story. You're like, I would have enjoyed to see these kids' story even without Pennywise.
Probably would have.
And the thing is,
like just living in Maine during the 80s, being bullied. Like they were all such good actors.
Stand By Me or something.
They were all such good actors. You were just rooting for them.
Book as well.
I wanted them to get what was the bully's name?
Fucking what was I get?
I was checking the cheat sheet. I was trying to Billy Bowden.
Oh no, it is. No, it's not Billy. Bill's the dead air.
Henry Bowers.
Henry Bowers, yeah.
Yeah, but like even Bowers, like I mean, I would have just seen them trying to, Bowers going insane and start killing people. I would have watched it. Yeah. And this film is called It. It's about Pennywise, the dancing clown. And the film was so good that I would have watched it without him. And that's really, really saying something.
Yeah, and I think
because it's just about some kids in living in the 80s in rural America after that.
I think a lot of it as well is it's the set pieces are so frequently that they smother the story. Like it's at the end of the day, it's a coming of age story.
It is absolutely.
And if you have it everywhere all the time, you don't allow the story room to breathe, and you don't allow us to actually become attached to these characters. And that's what I like about it, because you have pretty much you introduce you to the characters, and then we introduce you to all their fears. Yeah. So Stanley in the synagogue with that's a creepy ass fucking painting.
There's so much of its pubescence. There's Bev
with her period,
getting her period. Yeah. There's Richie.
You just didn't want to say that.
I just didn't want to say it. Yeah. There's Richie, as you find out in the second one, that he's gay. Yeah. And of course, like just that you're not. Just forget that you're not doing that. And then there's obviously there's a couple of guys who are. Oh yeah, there's what do you call it?
Eddie with the leper.
Stanley was having his
in the synagogue. He's at his bar mitzvah.
Bar mitzvah. Yeah. So it's so like over the top coming of age in a way, like you know. Just that, and
that's a creepy ass fucking painting.
Oh,
I'd be saying to my father, I'm like, you're the rabbi, right?
Yeah.
And you want me to keep saying this, you want me to keep reciting the Torah, learn it off in Hebrew, which is a pretty difficult thing for a 13-year-old to do.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, I agree, Stan. I'm like, all right, Dad, then take down that fucking painting.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I'm not going to learn shit until you do.
Absolutely.
Because that painting is terrifying. You want me to learn
I know when he
Hebrew?
walks in
It's
and he puts his
terrifying.
hand up to his face.
Because and the reason I'm like that is because when I was a kid growing up, my parents had over their bed was a picture of Jesus on the cross.
Right.
And it was one of those pictures
that opens its eyes if you're going.
Yeah,
my granny had the exact same one.
Like, and so
the glass is tinted in a certain way,
it's
where it's actually two pictures.
Yeah, and the eyes move.
The eyes move, and
so
always looking at you.
When I went into my parents' room when I was a kid, I used to always go in and jump up and down their bed. And I'd jump up and down their bed, and I'd always have to face away from him because every time I jump up and down, he's
open.
Yeah. And like ever
ever
since then, anytime anyone's got a creepy poster or picture or like that, or like not that creeps me out, and I'm just like, why do you have that?
Why do you
if
have
it's
that?
unnecessarily creepy, I'm like,
it's like Victorian era dolls.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, my father got one for Astrid, like Astrid's grandfather, and she was like, why did he get me this? She was like, Daddy, this is terrifying. You know what I mean? Because she grew up in like modern dolls and shit like that.
Yeah, I know. Like, the girl was born in the 2010s.
Yeah, 2010, yeah.
You know what I mean?
2011, sorry.
2011, so she is not... Not that we were even,
Yeah.
but so she's not of the age.
Yeah.
Like, she was like,
she's like,
knew how to use an iPad at 18 months.
Like, Daddy, why is this creepy doll looking at me?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, but I'm going to burn it with fire.
Here's the thing, I always say, like, this is what I say about imagery and stuff. And that's what this did so well when it was playing with people's fears. But like, I'm a complete atheist guy, and I've no real belief. But like, if you like the Annabelle doll, which really exists, and it's one of those red kind of raggedy dolls.
Yeah, I'd fuck that doll up twice on Sundays.
Yeah, I don't think I'd like to sleep with that doll in my room. It's just that there's a lot of folklore attached to it.
Yeah.
And I just think that's the human mind.
Yeah.
I think because if I took that doll and gave it to somebody and told them nothing about it, nothing would happen. Nothing at all.
It's like I won't sleep in a room
It's
with mirrors.
knowing. I don't sleep in the room. There's a vanity mirror that Sheila keeps in my room.
Yeah.
My little kind of opposite room.
Yeah,
and I said, I just have that facing the wall. Yeah, she can use it when she needs to use it. But I have that shit facing the wall.
Yeah, we have like one mirror in our room, and I always sleep my back to it. I hate, we have, Lorraine has those small portable mirrors too, and anything she leaves in the office, I'll either just bring it back in or just do what you do and just turn it around.
Oh yeah, no.
It's just something about it. It's like you're being watched by yourself.
Yeah, it just makes me uncomfortable.
And that's the thing what it does as well. It just finds what the characters are uncomfortable with.
Well, what are you uncomfortable with? Like, again, I didn't realise
I
until
hate spiders.
I'd
be fucked.
You just get spiders, yeah. And it'd be like, spiders. I goes, I'm 85 million years old. You know how many times I've done spiders?
I'm sorry, I'm a plain Jane.
Yeah,
he's like,
you'd survive.
Yeah, he's like, I'll do you
one.
last or something.
But I didn't realise, as Sheila was saying to me when we were watching it last night, and she was saying, do you realise that, when Bev comes back and she's after starting to get her period, and her father's obviously
still my little girl, man.
Still my little girl, and obviously just her becoming a woman obviously was something that she was having so much conflict with.
Yeah.
And it's when she starts to cut her hair.
Yeah.
And then when it's blood and hair coming out of the drain, I didn't realise that. To be honest with you, I was just watching the cinema going, yeah, that'd be freaky.
Yeah.
I didn't read into it,
Yeah.
And she goes, no, like that's her fear, like changing in a house with a monster like her dad.
Yeah.
Becoming a woman is just horrifying to her, and this is this kind of really twisted. And that's
she wants
why
to be more boyish looking.
Yeah, and this is a really twisted and hang out with boys.
Yeah.
But this is a really twisted expression of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, actually, that just makes it all take on such a
that
bigger
seems
meaning.
incredible.
And a kid like Ed, of course, disease.
Yeah.
The
leper.
So he gets a leper vomiting on. Like, it's so.
That whole scene is amazing. I can't believe the one place he runs is in behind the creepy house.
Yeah.
But
that's the trying to escape, so you run upstairs thing.
Exactly. And they're kids as well, so they make bad decisions.
But that's it, yeah.
But
that's the thing. Even that didn't feel like you're not even allowed to look at this film too much and say, oh, why didn't they just do this or why didn't you just do this? Because at the end of it, you had one of their best friend who wants to find his brother.
Yeah.
And when he does find what happens to his brother, he wants goddamn vengeance.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's all about finding Georgie. But that's the thing though. Like,
even when he builds the tubes, and to the exact specifications of the storm drain, I thought that was excellent.
Yeah, and the father's like, put that shit away or something. Like, I'm like, dude,
he's dead.
Yeah,
and Sheila was just like, yeah, but you don't want to take his body back. Like,
man,
you're still allowed. You can accept that he's dead.
Yeah, it's like there's a woman that one of her, I think her son was the victim of the Moors killers.
I know. Yeah. Peter, I know of the woman.
Peter Huntley and someone. What was the other woman's name? The blonde girl.
Moira Hindley.
Moira Hindley, and they'd never found the remains, and they were never told the location. And she still, in her mind, is looking for it's like 27.
Yeah, because when Moira Hindley, before she died in 2002, was getting this woman's letters, and she decided to try and help her. But the fact is, with the Moors, they were Moors.
Yeah, exactly.
What she remembered from 40 years ago was simply gone, lost the time. And that's what this is with Georgie, was simply lost the time.
Yeah, because obviously they think he just got washed on the sewer drain.
And he got bet up and probably eaten, and he's nothing now. It's just nothing.
Or
now.
just flushed out.
To the ocean. Absolutely. Why are I don't know. I've never been to America, but what's with your storm drains, dudes? Has no one invented grates?
Yeah, they're terrifying.
Do you remember, but not just that, the storm drain didn't have a grate, and when Bev was cutting her hair was just like falling down wholesale down the sink because it didn't have a little grate. And I was just like, grates mustn't have come to the States.
Do you remember the scene like after Bev's whole bathroom gets covered in blood? And the boys have to come in and help her clean it.
Explain that scene to me. Could they see the blood?
Yeah, they could see the blood.
Could they?
Yeah.
So she was like, are they just helping her because they understand, or can they see the blood? Because I thought it was a really cool scene when the father comes into the room and she's like, the blood, and he's just like, what blood? And I love the fact that it was just practical.
Yeah,
as in he was just an actor ignoring the fact that the room was completely covered in blood.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the fact that you just said, why, we don't need to. Yeah, we don't need to do anything here.
I think it's because it is focusing its powers on Pennywise is focusing his powers on the group, the Losers Club.
Yeah,
and any other kid really as well, because
that's what I get. So I was wondering because we debated that a little bit last night, and I didn't know which side I fell on, because I just thought like, okay, if it'll make you feel better, I'm cleaning this window. Yeah. I'm wringing out this sponge and I'm going to clean the window some more. So, and she was like, no, if they got the kitchen, if they got the bathroom clean, they could see it. Yeah, you know what I mean? Exactly, like if they knew that they were done, they could see it.
And I love remember they leave Richie outside. I love that kind of shit though, because it did actually feel like a group of kids that knew each other for ages. Like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's a rare chemistry to get that.
And they were only like, supposed to be 13. They're probably 14, 15-year-old kids or something at the time.
But Finn Wolfhard has done like, what, 1 or 2 seasons Stranger Things last day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think, oh my God, it was just. But again, it's lightning in a bottle. I think that's, again, not to jump ahead, I think that's what's. And I actually thought the chemistry was very good in the second one. The chemistry was so epic in the first one.
And there's no comparison for the first one. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so as soon as you have a direct comparison.
Yeah, it doesn't need to measure itself up against anything either. Yeah. It just had the benefit of the doubt. It was the story.
Yeah, and what did you make of the way, like, because, like, pretty much.
We've talked so little about Pennywise.
I know.
We have done,
but lucky for you. But what did you make? Because literally, this is what I was about to say.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
But what did you make? Do you know the way they introduced Pennywise? It's like, it's so close. And but like the way they introduced Pennywise, because we touched on earlier, like the way he uses their fears against. Like we said, like Bev, she doesn't want to enter womanhood because of her father, and she feels.
She's the slut.
Yeah.
Even though she kissed one boy.
Yeah, exactly.
But she was the slut at school. So, there was a lot of it. It was a lot for her at such a young age. Yeah.
And like, and it plays on the fears and stuff. And then we see like with Michael that when he gets introduced that his family burnt to death, and that's the fear he plays.
Well, that one, that one was really so cool. On the nose. It was just not being able to help your loved ones.
Yeah. One thing I loved about this movie, not to veer off my point, was how they use sound. Where it was like constant, like
Carol is always telling us that
it's like a chorus of voices getting louder, and then they would get really quiet or something like that. It's like he made the scene, and Andy Machete made the scene
crescendo. Yeah, it wasn't just like shotgun blast. Because that's what a jump scare is. Isn't it? You close the medicine cabinet and it's behind you.
Yeah, you close it's not there, and then you open.
And then that's a shotgun blast. Yeah. But it was right. You're right. It kind of crescendos. You can feel a build. Yeah, and it's like the desperation and the pain.
Like when Pennywise is running at the camera, running at the character.
Yeah, I'm getting chills.
It's like boom, 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 boom. It's like and he's getting bigger and shit like that. Like, and that's like I just think the way they introduced him in these scenes is so well done, because it shows such a wide variety of his power set. Yeah. Because like we're superhero guys, so we love power sets and shit like. And you look at like he manipulates Stanley in the synagogue by taking on the form, so like of the crooked faced woman or whatever. Yes. And then he plays with Mike by like literally like he's manifesting an entire fucking bunch of people burning to death, and they're reaching out through the doors.
And with Ben, he was a half a kid, because he was looking into all the child
murders.
Yeah,
that was fucked up. And he's like, did you not see the old woman in the background?
No, I said Sheila watched the old woman because I'd read about it. Yeah, and she's just creepily.
Yeah, as me and Lorraine had this thing, was like we don't trust old people in horror movies. So anytime we see an old person in the background, we're always like, What's he doing over here? So as soon as we seen this in the cinema, we're like,
Look at the old woman. Yeah, look at the old woman.
Because that's anytime we see anyone being like weird and like anyone being old in the background, really.
Yeah.
I was going to say weird in the background. I mean, no, we're pretty judgmental.
No, but there's always like you're supposed to trust them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're nice.
That's why
and
just
they're
the
elderly.
kids and older people are so creepy and horror. Because me and Lorraine were talking about this, that like when a kid and an old person, you don't see them as a threat.
No.
Naturally, you won't see them as a threat, so you feel immediately comfortable around them.
Yes.
And safe. And as soon as that gets turned on its head, it puts you completely on at ease, because like immediately it's an unnatural feeling, because someone that you're not supposed to see as a threat is this immediate threat all of a sudden, and it's
or isn't at all what you perceive them to be.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, because like even like Nazis got old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
well said. Yeah, even Nazis got old.
Motherfuckers.
But Pennywise is one of my favorite all-time villains.
Yeah.
Because
This version of Pennywise or Pennywise in general?
Pennywise in general.
Yeah.
Because I have the book and the Made for TV 90s and the film under the belt. I have to say, just it as a concept. But I always thought, like, because he's not limited by his powers, are not just limited by his imagination; they're limited by yours.
Yeah. Very Freddy Krueger.
Which is very Freddy Krueger-esque. Just what are you afraid of? And just and it's all to tenderize your meat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Essentially,
that's what it is,
essentially he's going to eat you.
Yeah.
Which is just one of the most horrifying things that we can imagine.
Remember
He's
he's biting
eaten
on
alive.
Stanley's face.
Oh yeah, I remember that, and really sinking his teeth in, and Stanley just screaming, "You left me!
You left me!"
Yeah, we said, like, because we know what's in store for poor Stanley. I said that's the trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's when Pennywise literally had him.
Yeah. Like he was dead.
Like in his grasp, eating, and he was going to eat him face first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What a horrible way to go.
What a horrible way to go, like, yeah.
And
He was going to be tore apart.
Yeah. This guy. So like the one, like, I love the way, like, as I said to you, they show the array of powers he has, and then you know straight away that like these kids are in for a fucking long, rough journey.
Oh,
like,
God,
you know what I mean? Like, and then as the story progresses, and then you see them kind of bonding, and then they kind of split up, and then they come back together for the kind of big hurrah and shit like that. Like, there's a real payoff, because you see the journey they've been through before that. Like, this is like, because like from the get go, he's just like, I'm gonna fuck with some kids. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing: they probably weren't just the only kids he was fucking with as well. Like, you know.
Oh, obviously, because he was taking. There's like
in the second film, there's like,
no, remember, we all float down here and
we all float. Yeah, absolutely.
And remember that thing on the fucking side of the shop, where it's like a missing poster, and so many kids were getting missing.
That's right.
They were just covering over their face.
The bully was over the girl who had gone missing. Yeah,
because he gets taken when they're chasing Ben.
That's it. When they're chased, they're after carving the hate. Bowers is up to carving the hate.
What an asshole!
What a dick! Oh, and I think a little shout out to Bowers here. What an epic bully! The mullet, the really skinny kind of face, like. The flick knife, but he himself having a bully of a dad.
Yeah,
very,
his father's
very
an
good.
asshole. The way he kills his father is a really good scene.
And he does it in such a simple but cowardly way.
Oh, it's a great way to take down someone bigger than you, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because in fact, you let everything do the work for you.
Yeah.
He literally just put the
opens
the blade up against his father's neck. His father's reaction just wakes up and he's already choking to that in his own blood. There's nothing to be done.
Because that's the carotid. As soon as the carotid, you're pretty much
you're absolutely fucked. Especially if it goes that deep. That must be 4-inch, 5-inch blade.
Yeah, he's popping it back out.
And he's popping it back out straight away. Like, yeah, so he's there was no chance of survival. But he's like, obviously he's very two-dimensional, but I think that's all he needed to be.
Yeah, but I think he was kind of harnessing, for lack of a better term, that stereotypical 80s bully feel.
Yeah.
Like, was it in Stand By Me, it was Kiefer Sutherland or something like that?
Yeah, it was,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the fucking mullet, the fucking...
And the gang of guys that are just like, one of them was called Belch. Like the gang of guys who'll just do anything to be around him, and he's their little posse,
Yeah, and the fucking pure henchmen, like.
Just pure henchmen with no real discernible personalities of their own. I was laughing because especially watching the film the second time, and what happens. I think Peter is the name of the bully that gets killed, and he goes into the sewer, and I'm like, he's going up against Pennywise, the primordial evil, but he's got like a can of deodorant and a lighter.
Yeah.
And you think it should be fine.
It's like my producers in here was like, did not end well.
No. But I thought that was great. You don't even see, and again, there was enough. They did the whole you don't get to see the kill and you get to see the kill thing. I think they did that well.
Yeah.
Because you got to see the kid get his arm bit off, which is so brutal.
And in the opening.
And then you get to see you don't get to see the police get killed. I like the fact that it was just the film was just fucking with you the whole time. You didn't know what it was going to do. It was such, I don't know, man, it felt like a roller coaster. And that's more of an action film thing than a horror film thing. But it had so many glorious set pieces of kind of unexpected. And
that's what the bigger budget allows, though.
That's what the bigger budget allows. You know what I mean? And not just a bigger budget, but access. You know what I mean? They own a lot of these studios, so they were probably able to keep costs down in a certain way, even though the 35 million is a lot of money. They're Warner Brothers. They own the lots.
Yeah, exactly. But what did you think of, like, I was going to say, I'll give you one more, I'll go one more question and we go to the break.
Go over it.
So, like, what did you think of, like, so we already spoke about, you know, the losers and how they got introduced to one another, Pennywise playing on their fears. We talked about Henry Bowers. We talked about Michael, Ben, and stuff like that. But, like, what did you make of the way the story progresses? Like, I don't want to jump into the second half because I'll leave that to the kind of the end of the movie and the climax and shit. But what did you make of the way, like, it progresses and captures the moment, like the era that it's set in and shit like that? Because, like, what's so important about this film is not just the characters, but the era it's set in as well.
Well,
like,
I've said this a few times, and if you want to make something based in the year 1503, or you want to make something based in the year 1983 is harder.
Yeah.
Because you can go to really old ruins and you can make it look the part. But 83 products looked a certain way.
Yeah. And in the 1500s, it's left to interpretation as well.
But everything from the cinema had Lethal Weapon 2 and Friday Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Yeah.
When Bev went into the pharmacy and she met up with the losers for the first time.
Yeah, and the pervert guy, you know.
Yeah, and all of... Yeah, you look just like Lois Lane. Yeah, God, that was so fucking creepy.
Yeah, he's such a creep.
But there was all of the products that you've seen. She was getting tampons, the guys were getting gauzes, and there was just like, and there was advertisements for toothpastes and whatnot.
She's like, I'm distracted.
Yeah. But they were all completely A's. I mean, it was just so smooth. It just felt right. They just put effort into the small details, and a lot of that stuff you glance over, but if it was wrong, you'd notice it.
Do you think we got a remake on the back of, like, Stranger Things and the success of American Horror Story?
It became the 80s again there for a while, though, didn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of movies I've seen and stuff recently have been based
and stylized horror with, like, American Horror Story.
Yeah, it was the golden era of horror movies as well. So I think they're trying to, like, capture that magic.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of 80s franchises are coming back. I know Halloween's technically a late 70s franchise.
Yeah.
But
it's known to kind of... It was born in the 70s, but it kind of grew into an icon.
Oh, absolutely. 80s, absolutely. It had its cult following in the mid 80s. It was this huge. Yeah. So I do think they're trying to capture that magic. But to be fair, it was originally based in the 50s.
Yeah.
So I do think that they just wanted to have...
Because it was written in the 80s, was it?
Yeah, and it was written in the kind of the era that...
70s, 80s, whatever.
Yeah, it was written in the era that Stephen King would have been a kid in. Like, he would have been 13 back then.
Yeah.
So
he wrote 20... Did he write it in the 70s? Like, was when he... Like, Joe wanted to make the time jump 27 years.
Yeah.
Is it in contemporary times in the same way the sequel is?
I think so. I think he wrote it in the 80s or something like that, yeah. And that's the way that first... made for TV was. It went from the 50s into the 90s.
Yeah, that's what I remembered.
But yeah, I just think they said, right, well, you obviously have to keep it modern.
Yeah,
and it was, but they had to go back to the 80s, but it didn't lose anything. That 50s feel was even still kind of there.
Yeah.
Because the jump of technology that we had in the last 20 years is so significant.
Yeah,
it's so much. More has happened in the last 20 years between the 50s and the 80s.
Yeah.
It really has.
And I think a big thing about the 80s as well, because of the whole Reagan era and stuff, it was like it tried to recapture some of that Americana of the 50s.
Yeah.
And that's why you can supplant a story from the 50s fluidly into an 80s setting, because it has some of the same themes. It has like the right versus the kind of liberal left and all this kind of shit in the 50s, where you're having like people fighting back against the kind of the power back then.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
had a lot of the same themes in the 80s. So, and it's aesthetically, it's kind of similar as well in a lot of ways. So it kind of fits to move a story from the 50s to the 80s. And I think that's why it kind of felt, natural or organic, because you have a lot of the similar themes, and it's kind of like both eras, even though they're quintessentially different in a lot of ways, they're very similar. That kind of way. Like, I think because the 80s tried to be the 50s. You know, that kind of like, I think that, and I think, and that's why you get like a movie like, or the TV series from the early 90s when you change that from a 50s or 60s setting or whatever into an 80s. And I think that's where you get it's so easy to do that because both eras share a lot of the same kind of mentalities.
Yes.
You know, that kind of way.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah. So, no, do you have anything else you want to say before we get to the break, or we get the fuck out of here?
Let's get the fuck out of here for...
All right, folks. Thanks for staying with us. All right, and this is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel and Vinnie.
We got Carmack in the back, and we'll be back after the break. Now, a word from our sponsors.
Boom.
Welcome back from the break. This is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Toohey.
And we're back in Derry, Maine with It Chapter 1. And before we went to the break, we ran through the gambit of pretty much everything it had to offer, except a few finer points that we wanted to leave for the second part because, you know, it runs to the climax of the movie. I know that's what you said you wanted to take it up from there.
I was thinking like, we've got a film and we've got a dead little brother.
Yeah,
We've
Georgie.
got kids gone missing from the neighbourhood, bullies and little girls alike. And then we've got the kids want to... You said turn the tables, and I think it's probably fair to say at least fight back.
Yeah.
Because what you're up against is so much more than what you are. But
he seems so undefeatable.
yes.
And then when you find a weakness, it's that real moment of like hurrah for the... Because if you don't do it right, there's something I've spoken before, is like if you create something that's completely undefeatable and if you don't make your characters relatable, when they actually figure out a way to fight back, if you don't feel that moment of like that exhalation, then they haven't done their job right. You know what I mean? And you
that's
really
why,
feel
you know,
it on this.
like even when you worded it that way, I thought Dutch and Predator.
Yeah.
You know?
And you're like, yes!
Yes.
When the mud,
now guess who's invisible?
he can't see me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Now guess who's invisible?
Yeah.
Because the second that your cloak went, I learned how to do it. Yeah. So there was that. They realised that it feeds on fear.
yeah, moment of triumph.
Yeah, and also they realised that they were willing to kind of go to bat for each other.
Yeah.
When they went to the house, because all of the drains led to this house,
Yeah.
this was like the nexus of the entire sewer system of Derry. And you realise that it is terrifying, but they will, like I just said, they will go to bat for each other, but also they can hurt it.
Yeah. But not only that, they're weaker apart and they're much
Yes.
stronger together.
Yeah.
They have to be unified going against Pennywise.
That's it. Yeah.
That's the big
when
thing.
he tries to close down on one, that's when all of the others strike. And I just thought, you know, sometimes you watch something, you kind of go, there's just nobody who's going to go take on that. That's not how real people act, and that's true, to be honest.
Yeah.
But you felt it with these kids.
But kids might do that though.
Kids might,
because they don't know any better.
because they and even said, if we don't, who is?
Yeah.
And somebody's like, 27 years because they figured out the pattern because Ben's research. In 27 years, I'll be 40. I'll be a long way away from here. I'll be an architect. And, you know, like fuck this. And they were like, yeah, but like, what about another Georgie?
Yeah, exactly.
And I love the fact that, again, it goes back to even though they're bullied and marginalised and
that's what makes heroes superheroes.
yeah, that's kind of what makes them, because you need that flaw. That's why Wolverine and characters like that are so perfect.
But at the start though, they're kind of like they're being heroic. But the fact that they make the pact to come back 27 years later, that kind of makes them super heroic.
Oh, yeah,
because they're
absolutely.
looking past themselves now.
Yes.
Like at the start, it's like it's the immediate threat of like we're going to die. Georgie died. You know what I mean? It's a very immediate threat. But when you look 30 years into the future and go, what about, as you said, another Georgie? What about that kid we don't even know? The kid that's not even born yet. What about they don't know it? What we need to use is our knowledge.
Yeah.
Or against Pennywise, how to destroy him. We need to use that. We need to teach. We need
They
to be
can't
there.
even give that knowledge to anyone because who would believe them?
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, here's what to do in the event of a fire.
James McAvoy tries to do it in the sequel, and the kids like stay away from me. Like, you know what I mean?
absolutely. Well, yeah, exactly.
As you would.
Because you would,
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. They were literally, if not us, who?
Yeah.
And if not now, when?
Yeah, exactly.
And that was it just set it up so kind of perfectly for the kind of final confrontation.
Yeah.
So even though they couldn't even really stand up against something like a high school bully,
yeah,
they were willing to take on something so huge.
Well, no, when they stood up against Henry Bauer, though.
Oh, they did actually.
They did the stone.
Sorry, they weren't able to defeat.
It was Beverly that gave them the strength.
that first stone.
Because the attention from Beverly gave them the confidence. If a pretty girl can like us, maybe
that was it. It was a young guy.
we're losers, but we're not losers.
Yeah, they wouldn't want to show because she just said, "Fuck this."
Yeah, she's like, "Fuck this noise."
And they already gotten Ben, and they had Mike, and they were going to do something terrible to him. So they came down and showered, and they had the rock fight. That was a great
kid's
scene.
like your man Bauer. He's driving a sweet fucking car.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like it's like his father might beat him, but is he all that bad?
Isn't he 14?
It's like if my father took a couple of swings at me, got me a really nice car, I'd be like,
yeah.
I could go for a couple of uppercuts.
I take the uppercuts now in my late 30s if I didn't have to pay my insurance.
Yeah, it's like, what, you're hitting me and you're giving me a Chevy?
Yeah.
It's like, what, you want to do a southpaw stance? Well, which one do you want me to line up for you? You know what I mean? It's like, you want me to open up for the straight or you want me to hook it up? You know
you have a blind spot when you drop your guard. Giving them tips. Yeah.
It's like, I think you should actually like, throw your hip into it. Just bring it into it. I want full straight.
But I thought when they went in and actually went down to take on Pennywise, it just had you were rooting for them so desperately.
Yeah, because at first it was like we have to find out where he lives.
Yes.
And then they find out when they go into the house where Richie sees the missing sign and he sees the doll of himself and all this stuff.
And that's where Ed and Richie they get separate, like they both get separated from the crowd, and they both have
Eddie gets his arm broken.
Yeah,
he falls through the ceiling.
And through a table. Yeah.
I was like, when I watched that scene, because Eddie's mother is such a fucking, what's the word?
Munchausen by proxy, I think is the term.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, she's such a, like, she mollycoddles him, like.
A helicopter mother.
Yeah, exactly. That's the term. And when he broke his arm, I was like, could you imagine being that kid in that moment? Because you know how bad your parents are going to react. Yeah. Because I'd been in trouble in school when I was younger. And sometimes you're like, be grand, you know, that kind of way. But sometimes you fuck up real bad. Like real bad, like you break a kid's nose or you do something stupid, you break something in class, and then you're like, this one's going to sit differently. Yeah, and you can see that in Eddie's face, like he's like in pain in his arm, but you can kind of see like in his head, he's like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what I love about that scene. It's such a kid moment that, like, you know what I mean? You're just like, I'm in trouble, but now I'm going to be an extra. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean?
As in, I'd sit here with the broken arm and not have to deal with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, do you remember Randy in Scream? Even though, like, he's been through he killed all these people, and in that moment, it's like, oh, my mom and dad are going to be so angry.
I feel a little bit woozy here. Yeah, absolutely.
That kind of moment where it's like the kind of kid comes out again. Or just
that's
like,
it, because when it's all stripped away.
The realization.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Even though they're taking on Pennywise, they're still that. But that was it. It always juxtaposed. Yeah. Just kids growing up in Derry, Maine, against the background of the horror. Yeah. And it was able to switch back and forth between them.
I love the thing when Ben's like, do you know kids go missing? Because he's new to town. And they've done 6 times the above
3
average.
3 times the national average, and at kids it's worse, more like
it's 6 times, exactly. Like, it's like, fucking hell. And
the reason he knew that is because he's not, whatever... Like, Pennywise's greatest power is this kind of spell that's over the whole town that makes them kind of indifferent. Yeah. And over time forget.
It's like something I said earlier about the missing posters. Just put one over the other. Just put one over
Literally
the other.
one over the other. I remember thinking there's a wall there.
Yeah.
Like, if they were just like going
pretty solid wall there. Like, pretty solid wall.
Pretty solid wall.
I think that, though, does hint at the indifference this town was feeling. Yes. That it's such a constant thing.
Ben came in from the outside. He wasn't years in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because even 13-year-old kids, they're extremely young, but they're 13 years.
Yeah, and when I was an adolescent, you're an adolescent, that's when you do your mental exploring. That's when your mental exploring begins. You start branching out on what you watch, what you read, what kind of like
what you're interested in.
Stand-up comedy,
so,
like, you know what I mean, like stuff like that. Because like a lot of people, like when I got to that age, opened my mind a lot with stand-up comedy, and that led me to reading a lot of stuff. And like instead of like reading, like, you know, you switch from, when I was a kid, I was reading lots of Goosebumps and stuff, and I started switching more to like adventure stories, because when you're an adolescent, the thing you think about is the next step of becoming an adult. And
it's true. You can't wait to grow up. Is the greatest tragedy, I think, of teen years.
Yeah, and you think it's life's greatest adventure, but it's actually life's greatest disappointment.
It's a trap. It's a trap. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
don't grow up, kids. It's a trap.
And don't be listening to us, kids. Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, it's a trap. It just reminds me of Star Wars.
If you agree with what we said, send your first 4 digits of your bank number. No.
He tried that earlier on with me.
Yeah.
Done this shit.
Let me see the car. Wow, it's really cool. But so let's move along to what the final showdown And it was kind of like the final test of them all.
Yeah, because this is when they come back together.
This is where they come back together.
Yeah.
Sorry, and it should be said that Richie falls out with Bill.
Because of what happens is, what you touched on earlier, Stanley gets his face munched on, so he feels betrayed that they left him, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Eddie gets injured, so obviously the mother's going to go.
I think Stanley gets injured later at the end during the big bad showdowns.
No, but at this stage, Stanley gets his face munched on.
Yeah.
Or is that? I
think that's later. So I think it's Ed and Richie who really get like almost devoured.
In this,
with the salivating, like Pennywise mouth changing.
Yeah.
And then Bev comes in and shoves the spear through the spear fencing through his head.
Yeah.
So but like he was saying, look, we nearly got killed in there.
Yeah.
And they were like, it's not worth dying for.
Yeah.
And you understood it. But the fact that they all came back together, because it's like that thing, when you're pissed with someone but you love them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
And it wasn't a Bill that figured out that we have to be together, because if we're apart, he's going to just pick us off one at a time.
Pick us off one at a time.
Yeah, because that's where you kind of figure out now that Pennywise isn't as strong as maybe you think he is.
Yeah,
the strength he has is what we're giving him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? That's the thing. The strength that's an interesting concept, because you see something absolutely terrifying and if you've ever had bad anxiety or something like that, that the logical brain is, oh, you go and get checked out, and it's like, no, your vitals are fine, this is fine, that's fine, it doesn't matter, your belief system, and your brain's like, it's actually a heart attack, dude. I'm convinced it's a heart attack. But that's exactly. And Pennywise is the literal embodiment of that, taken to 10, because that thing that you're picturing in your head, he is the big bad, he is the werewolf, and he is the voice under your bed, and he can be all of those things. And I don't even know if he might even be omnipresent. Yeah. You know what I mean? He seems to be able to terrorize a whole town at the same time. Yeah. Like, the laws of physics don't apply to him. They really 100%, because he can morph reality. Like, he can change reality. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and he's doing, I don't know if he's doing it with your mind, your soul. Because we find out later he's an alien or something. Exactly. Right? Yeah. He's from the macroverse, it turns out. He's actually like from... Oh, is that what the book is? Yeah, he's from above the universe where gods and stuff are. So he's an interdimensional being. He's an interdimensional being. Yeah, exactly. Which sits better with me than Alien for some reason. Yeah, it doesn't. He's more than that. Like, he's not, because Alien would still imply some sort of, like, even acid blood and a tongue with teeth on it. Yeah, to me, he comes across as like primordial, demonic sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely. The kind of thing that the reason we have folklore. Yeah, exactly. Based on, and the reason why people are afraid of clowns. Yeah, the reason people are afraid of. It's kind of like, people say we're afraid of snakes because of Adam and Eve. And that's why we're untrusting of snakes, because it's ingrained into us from biblical times and stuff. And like, maybe Pennywise is so old. True. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But Pennywise is so old. Maybe that's why we have this kind of fear clowns. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. Yeah. Because somebody survived and somebody told a story. Definitely the first, wasn't he? Yeah, exactly. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. What did you think of the Face Off? The Face Off I thought was brilliant. Like, and as you said, like, they go down for Bev, because it takes Bev. Yeah, that was what got them all back together. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is the first time we see the dead eyes. Yeah, the dead lights. Sorry, the dead lights. Dead lights. Sorry, because she wasn't. That's it. He goes to devour her, but she actually wasn't afraid. And I know he kind of. Yeah, and he can realise that there isn't a stench of fear of her, or at least not enough. Yeah, and that's why he doesn't eat her. He just takes her, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. He leaves her with the deadlights, and maybe I don't know what the deadlights really do, but I think they hypnotise you, I think, and then make you float. But I think, do you think maybe the deadlights is the kind of thing where if the kids that maybe don't fear him at first, he can kind of store them for food later? I think so. I think it might be like I think it leaves them in a state from like how maybe he perceives the universe, like outside of time and outside of, because again, the laws of physics don't apply. It's completely immortal, because she kind of has visions. Who finds out that she gets taken? Bill, is it? Yes. And he goes to the house, and the father is, after being hit with a porcelain. Do you remember that? Yeah. Because Pennywise pretends to be the father first. Yeah. Isn't it? He masquerades as the father, is it? Yeah, and then then the real father kind of shows up, and he's like, "What are you doing, girl?" And then she gives her the whole creepy thing, and she stands up for herself. Yeah. Kicks him, hides in the bathroom, and then he says, "Open the bath curtain." She hits him in the head of the toilet. I thought it was great. And then, of course, she has a handy weapon though. Yeah, absolutely. Isn't it? Like, seriously. And then she turns around, and Pennywise not fucking. I love that because it was a straight scene. Yeah. Turns around, Pennywise just grabs her. Yeah, like, he's not fucking around. Yeah, he grabs her and he's using her and he's going to lure her. Like, exactly. Yeah, she's like bait now. But that's it. And even though they'd fallen out, they realised, we're not going to let one of us die. Losers stick together. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then when they go down and they save her, and then Ben gets his kiss, kind of Sleeping Beauty style. That's how he brings her out.
Creep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then they have. I thought it was a great scene when she's down in what is essentially his base of operations, and all the kids are floating overhead, and the little show opens up. It's Pennywise dancing, and she goes to make a run for it, and he jumps out, and I love it. It was just. He wasn't cloak and dagger anymore. He was just there.
What I love is the montage in the build up to this. Like, I love a good montage, when they're all getting their weapons together and stuff like that. Like, the bolt gun's a good idea, though. Is that in the book?
Bolt gun's a good idea.
Is that in the book?
I don't know. Actually,
it's a good idea, though, isn't it? Because, like, if you're a kid, like, that is an actual killing weapon.
Oh, it's
and you don't need bullets.
A weapon that he himself has used to kill.
Yeah, and it's
you know what I mean? Like,
it's readily available
it's
to
ready,
him.
he knows it works. He's killed 50, 60 sheep with it himself. And again, this is some. Do you remember later when they're fighting and Bill gets his hands on the bolt gun, shoots Georgie in the head because Pennywise is trying to fuck with him that way, and then Pennywise comes back and he aims it again, and Mike goes to shout, "It's not loaded," and he pulls the trigger and it blows a hole through Pennywise's head. Yeah, because Bill thought it was loaded. Yeah, and that's what made it a weapon. And in that sense, that's why in the original 1990s one, Ed uses his inhaler. And he says, "This is acid," and he sprays it in Pennywise's face, and Pennywise, recoils, and he's got all these acid burns. So, like, I mean, it is just strictly a belief system, and if you can actually swallow your fear, he can't touch you. But good luck with that, because he's so terrorizing. And it's limitless where he can make your mind go. And the mind is designed to, like, react to external stimuli.
Like, when they were separated, do you remember he fucked with Bill again when the real famous "we all flow down here, we all flow down here"? Do you remember that, like, in the basement, and it was like flooding and shit? Like, that scene's fucking terrifying as well. Like,
and that's the thing. This is like the thing that it's like we watch that and you feel a bit of fear. And you are completely removed and in a safe place. So these kids are supposed to be in the world, and they're supposed to somehow not feel fear. And
and that's why telling stories like this through the guise of, like, a group of children is so, like, it resonates so much. Because when you put your mind into when you put your head into the mindset of, like, a Tom Cruise and a Mission Impossible. Like, it's impossible to do that. Like, so, but if you can put your mind into, like, as you said, if I'm feeling fear as a 33-year-old man or whatever, and I'm, like, imagine my mind as a 12 or 13-year-old kid, 12 or 13-year-old Vinnie goes into that basement. Not 33-year-old Vinnie goes into that basement. Then it's a different ball game.
Oh, absolutely.
I lived in creepy places. I've been in creepy
most
places.
Most of us didn't, like, grow up kind of like whatever an American version, I guess, would be the good-looking quarterback, most popular kid in school. I would relate closer to the losers.
Oh, of course,
I just did. Not that I was. I mean, I had friends and stuff like that. And I wasn't particularly bullied or anything like that.
My producer's saying that. Untrue.
We're not broadcasting this in Ireland. But we're just very, in between the tracks. And the kids were just, like you said, they were just relatable. Yeah. Because the one thing I know is I'd stick up for my friends. Yeah. I don't know if I'm taking on a Pennywise, but I'd stick up for my friends. And that's it. You could put yourself into these. Yeah,
but Pennywise is just like the nth degree of a big bully or some shit. You know what I mean? That's all it is, though. Like,
That's exactly what it is.
And like, it's like it's in Stand By Me, it's Kiefer Sutherland or whatever. And in The Goonies, it's like is it James Brolin? No, James Brolin's one of the Goonies, isn't he?
Yeah, he's
or Josh Brolin. Sorry, he's one of the.
They don't need. They have bullies up at the surface, and you remember, like, "You Goonie." But they.
But, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's the one reason these kind of stories are really successful. When you have a Goonies or Stand By Me or fucking it, like, you have the kids and they're so relatable, and that's why the sequel, like, that's why there's no sequel to the Goonies. There's no sequel to Stand By Me. That's why the sequel in it, like, maybe, because it's not as relatable, because the fear isn't there as much, even though the characters are very afraid in it. But
in the second, I think, exactly. In this one. In the second one, they kind of went in armed with the knowledge of how to really take it down.
Well, they had to regain the knowledge in the second one.
They have to regain the knowledge, but it's coming back, and they're grown-ass, successful, established people. So it does, I don't know, with the kids, it just seems like them against the world. Yeah. And, like, Pennywise was the world, I guess, the behemoth. And like you said, a bully to the nth degree. A bully will feed on your fear and kill you, as opposed to terrorize you and hurt you.
Yeah, and it's kind of like earlier on in the movie when they stood up to Henry, that showed them how you deal with Pennywise.
Yeah.
You stand up to bullies. You
Yeah.
don't run away from them. You don't back
But
down.
you said it well, like it is.
Yeah.
It's just that concept of a bully taken to God tier.
Yeah,
But-
exactly.
But no less a
Because
bully.
in the same way a bully reacts and uses your fear as your real weakness, that's what Pennywise does. And like, because when you stand up to a bully, like 9 times out of 10 they back down because they're really cowards. Because the only reason they're projecting their hatred out into the world is someone else is usually projecting their hatred onto them.
Yeah.
Quite like Henry and his father. Because Henry was only being aggressive to other kids because the only way he understood the world was aggression that he was experiencing from his father.
Yes.
And Pennywise probably came from this world of fear and death and manipulation, and that's why he's projecting that out into the world. So it's kind of like he's the bully into the 10th degree because whatever created him lived in malevolence, and that's why he's projected malevolence out into the world. Because that's what made him. In the same way a bully is often projected.
And all you are is taking and going to different tiers of existence. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why he uses like fear and shit. Like, and if you, as soon as you realize I don't give into the fear, then I take away his
Well, that's
power.
when he had Bill and he said, like, I'll take just him.
Yeah.
And you can leave and go live normal.
Yeah. He's so good in this.
He's so good.
Bill
yeah,
Skarsgård,
like,
oh my God.
I've missed you.
Do you think he should have gotten nominated for an Oscar for part 1?
You know what? Well, yes, but I think
you know what I mean.
It's never a goofy because there was a certain goofiness to him.
It was so menacing.
It was so menacing.
Like how it fucks with you when someone's being goofy and menacing at the same time.
And
Like, as you said, you
sometimes you
can
look
leave
at the script
normal.
going, what am I playing?
Yeah, exactly.
Am I the town?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Am I the actual rock and am I the granite and the fucking streets and the what am I like? You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think he was just phenomenal in it. I actually just loved Curry. I loved the strip down to bones.
Yeah.
But I just thought again when they went big, you might as well go big, and Skarsgård did it. And
for someone like Bill Skarsgård at the time as well, like he's not really super well known of. He's known of now.
There is Madam.
Yeah, like you know what I mean. Like he's gone and done what was the other one, Castle Rock as well. Like and that's another adaptation from Stephen King. It's like it's not directly an adaptation of his works, but it's set in his world. Of his works, if you know what I mean. Like, I've seen the first season. I haven't seen the second one, but I got cancelled. Unfortunately,
Mercedes, another Stephen King.
Mr. Mercedes, that went off the rails after season 1, in my opinion. I
only seen season 1.
Yeah, good.
Fair enough. Well, it was, but this was one of the few Stephen King things that lended itself to a second film.
Yeah, well,
it was they come back as a man and a woman.
Yeah.
To finish
because if he didn't tell a part 2, it's half a story only.
It really is. Yeah. But I think when he has Bill, he's just like he gives them their last chance.
Yeah.
And even like Stanley and everything just kind of goes, no.
Yeah.
We're here now. And I love like Richie kind of goes, I told you this would happen with Bill. I told you, and now I'm gonna have to kill this fucking clown.
Yeah, that's because he's terrified of clowns, isn't he?
Yeah. Picks up a baseball bat conveniently placed in the kind of.
But just a pile of nonsense, though, isn't it? Like,
tricycle. It's like things you'd associate with kids.
Yeah.
You know, like tricycles,
red wagons and shit,
baseball mitts and stuff like that. Yeah. And especially of the era. And now it would just be iPads.
Yeah, just a stack of phones.
Just iPads. Yeah. And you'd find them really easily because they'd be pinging.
It's like the baseball is a baseball app on the iPad.
Yeah. But I don't know, when they took him down and you see him kind of almost starting to melt away because they're looking at him and he's less to them now.
Yeah.
And they're looking down on him before he falls down that
great big hole. Because that's how he's probably why he's so menacing, because like he probably has this weird inferiority complex.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that he hates
he knows
himself.
He can be imagined away.
Yeah, exactly.
Despite having all that power,
he can be forgotten. Like
imagine that. Imagine your weaknesses that you could be forgotten.
Yeah.
That would be quite terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So in a sense, he lives in a fear of his own.
Yeah.
So it's I guess that's the full circle of it.
Yeah, I love when Beverly shoves that fucking like bar or something through his fucking head.
Oh yeah,
man. Like I know it's a lot of special effects, but like the design of it, like Pennywise, when his face manipulates and changes and his smile gets you. It's so fucking well done, though. Like,
it's incredible.
It's a few times where CGI actually pays off in horror, and this is definitely
like
one
the
of them.
deadlights in the back. Yeah.
Like that fucking sound so ominous.
Do you remember in the side? Well, not to jump ahead, but when Bill Hay gets hit by the deadlight, like mid sentence, and just the way his body goes limp, I thought that was. I went back over that a couple of times. Just the absolute smoothness of the way
of it, like
Oh, it was fantastic. But yeah, that was it. On second viewing, I absolutely.
Is this only your second viewing?
I've watched bits. I've watched all my favorite scenes.
Do you see this in the cinema or do you see it on
I've seen
release?
this in the cinema on release, and then I downloaded it obviously and I watched it this week.
Legally, of course.
Yeah, of course.
You got it from Amazon. I think it was
Amazon
$4.99.
is exactly where I got it from.
Both of them were $4.99 each or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned it to me or something.
Like, I mean, support Jeff Bezos, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Lex Luthor.
But
hashtag I see what you're doing, Jeff Bezos.
yeah, hashtag he's actually investing in anti-aging stuff now. So
Yeah.
he wants to go to space and live forever.
It's great, man. I say let the rich people do all the shit because eventually they're going to want to make money off it and they're going to start selling it to us.
Yeah.
So I'm in. Just let them.
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
people are like, oh, they're doing frivolous.
Gotta let it Bezos.
Yeah, people are like, oh, they're doing frivolous things. I'm like, yeah, let them. Because eventually they're going to start selling it to us, people. You know what I mean? Because that's how shit works.
Yeah,
it's consumerism.
But I have to say, this film, I find it hard to really fault anything about it.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's one of my favourite horror films.
Yeah.
That's how much I love it.
Yeah, like
it might be in my top 10. Like,
yeah, I think we're kind of lucky because for a while the early 2000s was a bit of a barren spell for horror in terms of legendary quality.
They kept trying to bring back the slasher kind of genre, which had died out a little bit from the Scream era.
Yeah, exactly. And because Scream was a leftover, because you have like a legend, and rest in peace, Wes Craven, and you have a legend like him who was like born, like not in a sense like him being personally born, but his career, his style was born in the 70s and 80s. And the last remnant of that is Scream, because it breaks the fourth wall and mocks what pretty much gave birth to it.
He mocks himself. He mocks what made him famous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And after Scream, we had a bit of a kind of a barren spell in terms
urban legends.
Yeah, but they're not iconic as well.
Yeah. The first Saw was good, but the other Saws were just kind
of
but
even Saw those like mid 2000s, later 2000s.
I think first Saw was 2004.
Yeah. I think you're right.
So
actually.
I think you're right there, smack in the middle of the noise.
Yeah. So
maybe three of them before.
So you're talking because we'd like to talk about so legendary franchises. Scream is the 90s, 100%.
100%.
And so you're talking 2000s of Saw, 100%. And so and then what we got very lucky in the preceding decade. No, preceding. That's the one that follows, isn't it?
Yes.
Or succeeding?
No, proceeding.
Yeah, is that right? Yeah. But the following decade, anyway, we got kind of lucky because we got a lot of modern iconic franchises like Conjuring. You got Insidious, and then you get It, which is probably kind of the creme de la creme of the major. Like I know Conjuring has spawned its own universe, but in terms of quality, I think It Chapter 1 is probably the best modern horror in a lot of ways.
Yes.
In the mainstream, I want to say,
Yes.
because there's probably other ones that are better.
I know, I agree. If I'm taking like films I enjoy, like Hereditary.
Yeah, and A Quiet Place is probably a better movie.
Maybe, maybe it is. Yeah,
in terms of the impact.
I felt I felt like I was in the world.
Yeah, and we really feel A Quiet Place, which we'll explain in the future.
Oh God!
Or we would have done in the past.
We should do that. Actually. Yeah, we should do A Quiet Place for the 54th time.
But so I think we got It Chapter 1 in terms of mainstream. Look at the merchandise. T-shirts, mugs, fucking figure, you know what I mean? Like when you look at you got, and the fact that I think the miniseries was very popular, but I think because the modern iteration was such a landmark moment where it hit the mainstream, everybody's seen it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that even kind of brought the original back into the light again.
Oh, it did. It did.
Yeah, and that's the sign of a successful remake, or you know what I mean? Because I think with Evil Dead, when they had the remake in 2013, completely different, but because it was so good, people went back and watched the original trilogy. It's even though that's so different, you're shining a light back on the original content. And
I think the swings and roundabouts of it, and that's vampires just came back there in the 90s and early 90s
because of Twilight and True Blood and all that.
True Lies or True Blood,
True Lies.
True Lies.
That's a very different show. Ernest Schwarzenegger instead of Alexander Skarsgård.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd watch that shit.
100%.
But this is the swings and roundabouts. Is that we're seeing some Stephen King now, but the fact that they decided, I know it didn't feel like a cash grab.
Yeah.
Even though it grabbed a lot of cash, 20 times its budget back.
Yeah, it's like you're talking Marvel numbers, 700 million.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? You're talking Marvel numbers with a quarter of the Marvel price tag.
100%. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So massive, but it didn't feel like a cash grab.
Yeah.
It just happens to be extremely successful based on how good it is.
It's so good as well, and it was so successful that it had this resurgence of Stephen King on screen.
Oh God, yeah.
Within the right now, apart from Marvel, I'd say Stephen King is the most adapted person or creator.
And you would have to. The only thing you can measure up is the entirety of the Marvel universe,
which is insane.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, and saying that Marvel has 25 movies now, including TV series in the MCU, give or take. Now the Shang-Chi's out. All right, but Stephen King probably has more works that have been adapted than Marvel have had superhero movies. So I'd love to see them weighed up against each other.
Yeah,
and that's one person. Marvel was a team. You had Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko. You know what I mean? And now you have Kevin Feige and multiple writers working off source
material.
And don't
forget, they came up with Ghost Rider and they came up with Spider-Man, and then they brought writers in. You know what I mean? Like the actual Marvel family is fucking huge.
And both his sons are writers. The amount of stories that has come from Stephen King's sperm is insane.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
That's right, yeah. Good seed.
Yeah, it's a creative sperm, whatever.
Creative sperm, yeah. The spice.
Yeah, the spice. That was excellent.
Thank you. If you know, you know.
That was good, though. Yeah, so like the big climax in this is where when they find out that, like, you know, Pennywise, he lives on fear. Without fear, you take away his power.
Yeah.
And they all face off, and I love that scene, as you said, like Mike's like, I'm gonna have to kill this fucking clown. He takes him out, like, you know what I mean? And then like it leaves all perfectly, because something you touched on earlier, because we even though we see Pennywise, like, you're going to starve or something they say to him, and he backs away and he gets down into the well and shit, and they know.
What does he say? He says one thing before he
fear.
Fear.
That's it.
Just fear.
Fear. And then he gets sucked down because I think he only has a certain time limit. Like, it's probably a summer, because it seems to do all these attacks from the summer. So
the same like Cicadas or whatever the name is.
Kind of like the Creepers 23. Yeah. Because, well, I suppose when you look at it as well, like a kid is at their most weakest in the summer, because the mother and parents are at work, you're not in school, you're out and about, you're doing your thing. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so that's like his hunting season. Every 27 years he comes out for like a summer. And
who knows in what way he exists in that 27 years, you know what I mean? Like he exists on different planes of existence. This just might be something that he needs to sustain himself on this one. It's crazy. Yeah, exactly. It's such a high concept.
Yeah, and like the way they wrap it up is so well done, because you said it lends itself perfectly. Because I haven't read the book, obviously it's 1,000 pages. Of course, you're going to have the two stories, but once it's like Jeepers Creepers. Even though, you know, the director's scumbag, you know, but allegedly, but the way you build in like the 27 years and the Jeepers Creepers, you have he comes out every 23 years.
Yeah,
you build in, it's perfect for a sequel. I would have loved it. Like, could you imagine if they went out pure baller and they're like, we're going to wait 27 years to release a sequel?
Oh wow!
Could you imagine that?
Wow!
Oh my God!
You have to make that be baller.
The anticipation.
Oh God! Like, I mean,
we're actually going to wait. Like, even if they did, like, we're going to wait till all those kids are growing up. Even 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you can because you're making them look a little bit younger than they are, and you can, on this other side of that, you can make them look a little bit older than they are, but you would still give it 15, 16 years.
Yeah, imagine the anticipation.
Oh, fucking hell.
You know what I mean?
It'd be nice to know that even if your career kind of starts to fade out, you just have this chapter 2, kind of like...
Chapter 2 in the bag.
Yeah. And you know, like, some of them would be like super mega successful, and then you have like the one who's gained weight and gone off the rails, and
do you think the little kid that plays Ben York when he's a kid, do you think he'll turn into Jerry O'Connell part 2?
Yeah, he's 100%. You know what? That guy's going to grow up to be a gorgeous motherfucker. I bet you.
It's according to chapter 2. Yes.
Yeah. He's going to do that thing that the Stand By Me kid did, and when he was in Scream 2.
Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah, Jerry O'Connell. Yeah, said it.
I think Finn Wolfhard's going to be a superstar. He's already coming. He's going
to be Ghostbusters now.
Stranger Things. Exactly.
He's
so
20
funny.
Yet.
So funny, like he really is. He's got like a real kind of dryness to him, but like even when he has to be the more, like him being Mike Wheeler and him being Richie in Stranger Things, and it's so close together, and like you can clearly see them as both characters. That's a sign of a good actor.
Yeah,
he like the way he plays Mike. Mike is kind of meek, and he comes out of himself, and he gains the confidence from being 11 and seeing the power of 11. It's like, if someone so powerful is interested in me, then maybe I have this power within me or whatever. And he kind of grows. But Richie's the opposite. Richie's like the motor mouth, never shuts the fuck
Johnny
up.
Big Balls.
And he only learns humility when he's faced with the fact that it can actually make him go missing, can replicate this fucking dummy. And he's like, oh all right, cool. Now then that's
you you're just so out there, and you're the most basic compound of
Yeah.
your existence can be just like what you want to do with your life, and that his would be settle down maybe and meet a man or something like that.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even be honest with that. So he's actually, in a way, he's very scared.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
know,
and that's why he's probably so braggadocious.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It's,
the
it's
coping
overcompensating.
Yeah, it's a defense mechanism. Like, you know,
But
what I mean?
no, great actor. Great actor.
Yeah, like
Great film.
Yeah,
It's just a great round film, and just improved on the second one. Can't wait to get into it.
And what did you like before we fucking wrap this up and we go to part 2, episode 2?
Part two.
And what did you think was the real strong points of it, chapter 1? Because like we've kind of, it's been a bit of a love fest, but like rightfully so. The set pieces were impressive. The character
Set pieces were great.
Yeah, the character building, it was character driven while at the same time being horror driven.
Same time, every character encompassing something different to the human experience.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, because like Michael, like, you know, being a young man of color back in the 80s, he obviously suffered racism from and shit like that, and they encompass that. Beverly, because, you know, slut shaming and shit like that.
Yeah,
like,
based on nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
You
like,
know, based on just, I don't know.
And Ben, they were
girls
beating him up
being
because he
mean
was new and different. These are all stuff we've all experienced.
Ben
as
being a
kids.
large kid.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Ben was just the large
He
kid.
literally was like a soft touch.
Yeah,
exactly. You know what I mean? Like a complete...
You know, he like new kids on the block.
I love,
I love when you shows the back of the door. Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
and the music plays for a second,
Yeah, and she just,
and he's like,
because he's got this like cool conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
No, that was a great little kind of moment.
I love when he meets her first, and he's such a mess, and he's like, he's got like a school project, and he's trying to pick up his bike, and he's trying to hold a school project, and he's like fumbling everything, and like he breaks the thing, and it's falling apart, gets tangled up in his headphones. He's just like, it's like poor dude, you know. But that's one of the extra strengths. Like, you know, it's still character driven, even though it's a fucking horror movie and it's mainstream and it's all these things. And it's got these big set pieces. I think that's why it is better, because it lands better and it's more relatable than in chapter 1 than it is in chapter 2.
Yes,
and I think that's the main strength.
That's a good,
the relatability of it.
So I think some of the strongest points, as we were saying, character driven, 100%. Different people who encapsulate different. You can't, not the full human experience, of course, but like a lot of it.
Yeah.
And some of the harder coming of age points.
Yeah.
And then there's the lightning in a bottle, which is chemistry.
Yeah.
Because there's some great films.
And even have chemistry with the villain as well.
Yeah,
which
even
is so
have chemistry,
important.
which is strange, but yeah, there is a twisted chemistry there. And third was the set pieces.
Yeah.
You know, they just work. They just
big scares.
The big scares, big moments.
And building the mythos as well. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it was so terrifying. Like, it's like when like Ben is discovering the past of Derry, and like I love that when he's like uncovering more things. Like you said, the whole town was kind of like this weird state of not like nonchalantness, but it's like a disinterest, or just they were so used to people going missing, and like they never really look into the history that they're actually this.
But they start to forget, because don't forget, because people who lose their children without answers, they look for those answers for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
They never stop. They never take their foot off. And maybe not in every case.
Yeah.
But if you had 6 times the national average, you would have enough parents taken to the streets constantly. No, there is this kind of cycle, a short memory span, or and like you said, a disinterest, or that just comes and goes. Like they might even forget. And like after 27 years, you might even forget.
Yeah.
Because I think
I wonder any of the parents ever seen Pennywise when they were younger.
Yeah, and if they survived, they forget.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they'd leave.
Yeah.
And mate, that's it. It's like it's like cows in a pen.
Yeah.
All they know is the pen.
Yeah.
And they can't get beyond it. And even like, you know, it's like a cow's in an electric fence.
Yeah.
You electrify that fence, but if you could turn off the electricity after a while,
and they won't go near it.
And all it is one tiny piece of wire.
Something they could easily jump over.
Something they could easily walk through.
Yeah.
You know, like there are a ton of walking muscle.
Yeah, beefcake.
Beefcake. But like, that's it. It's like that kind of mentality only to humans, because you are the livestock. It feeds on you. You're no different. So yeah, it was that just encapsulated it, and that's what makes it a horror. I mean, it's horrifying.
Yeah,
the concept of it is horrifying.
Exactly, like this fucking ageless creature that feeds on children's fears and stuff. Like, you know what I mean, and literally feeds on children themselves.
Yeah, you can't get away from it in a car. You can't.
He'll even feed on adults. We've seen in part 2 as well. Like, you know, because as you said, Ben touched on, well, adults is 3 and 1. It's 3 times the national average, but kids it's even worse. It's 6 times the national average.
Obviously, children are the delicacy.
Yeah.
Or
just easier prey, though.
They're easier prey, and the scare, I think because I do think you have a certain amount of terror, and I think the terror, when you can mess with a child's more active imagination.
Yeah.
A child that can't rationalize things
to
the same degree. Yeah, so I think children are the filet mignon, and adults are just a nice hearty burger.
Yeah, or just a good sirloin. There's a sirloin,
Yeah, exactly. A T-bone.
A T-bone, yeah. So do you think, before we get the fuck out of here, do you think, It Chapter 1, because I touched on it earlier, so my thoughts, I think it'll age well.
Oh, I think it'll be iconic.
Yeah, and I think so too. I think, it'll be, in the same way Conjuring has aged really, really well from its inception, I think, there's a few modern horrors that are going to age really well and going to become classics in the same way, Halloween, or Friday the 13th, or a Nightmare on Elm Street.
They'll be teaching Halloween in film classes in 50 years.
Yeah, and
they will.
They should be, if they're not. Already, there should be.
And it could have been a moment to turn the corner. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
And it certainly felt like something new.
It shows the big budget horrors are completely viable.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's a thing, when Iron Man showed that superhero movies are completely viable.
Yes.
And Pennywise, no. And I suppose saying that, though, in a lot of ways, it's probably maybe Conjuring might show, because there's the commercial success of a Conjuring and Insidious that preceded in It Chapter 1 might have shown that horrors can still be bigger budget, or
honestly, absolutely,
can still hit the mainstream. You know what I mean?
A Quiet Place made a bucket of money.
A Quiet Place came out around the same time as it.
It was about the same time as I think. Quiet Place is 2018.
Yeah,
so I think it was and Quiet Place could have been 6 months or 7. Less than 12 months apart.
So they're the real big kind of the flagship kind of.
Oh, they are. Yeah,
of the last few years
for things that went into the cinema against probably more mainstream films that were expected. That films that certainly 30 years ago would have, outshunned them, and they're not. Horror's become viable.
Yeah,
and hallelujah, to be honest with you,
And hallelujah. But do you want to say anything else about It Chapter 1 before we go?
No, just an absolutely awesome film all round. And if you didn't like it, there's something wrong with you, not the film.
No, there's something wrong with you, not it.
Not it, is what I said. First time. Boom.
Put that together, Karen. So I'm the same way. I think it's going to grow, and I think it's going to age really well. And I think it's I've seen it many times in the last 4 years. It's very rewatchable, and even though I think 2 hours might be the perfect length, because part 2 dealt with some length and pacing issues.
Because it was a lot. It was their lives against the terrorization of their lives.
Yeah,
it was a lot.
And this one is so quick, it's so pacey. It's so because straight away Georgie gets taken, and it's introduced, and you see the fears, people are getting scared, and then you bring them together, and then have to find out how to fight against it. But then as soon as they realize they can fight against it, they get separated again, or they're weak, and again Onslaught comes on, and then takes Bev, and then Bill's this is how we have to go against it. We can't be always on the defense. We have to attack. It's so quick. And then straight away it's to the end. You know what I mean? I just straight in 30 seconds.
The 2 hours do pass.
And even that's what I'm saying. Real quality horror, real quality movies are so rewatchable. In A Quiet Place, we've watched it for more than one reason or another recently. And every time I watch it, I enjoy the fuck out of it. And it flies by, and the pace and this is so quick. And
but again, it didn't feel like a cash grab.
Yeah, and
it didn't
it feels it's just a good movie. You know what I mean? It's not even just a good horror, it's just a good movie.
Just a good movie.
Because as you said, take Pennywise out, it's still a good film.
It's actually still a good movie.
If you have the story.
That's what's so crazy. To be honest with you, I probably wouldn't be the guy who's in the theater watching it.
Yeah.
Because, I wouldn't be, everything has to be a horror.
It's just like a modern Stand By Me.
Yeah, exactly. But honestly, if I did watch it, I'd be this is actually a real good
Exactly,
film.
if Henry Bauer was the villain instead, or something.
Yeah, Bowers is the villain. And then just trying to get away and have a summer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've seen worse concepts for films than that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that's what makes it so strong. A good horror, sometimes if you take out the horror aspect and you still have that human story and it's still a strong story, then you have a good movie, not just a good horror. And I think that's what It Chapter 1 did. And I think movies like Conjuring and stuff like that kind of did that as well, because you really relate to the family and you want to see the family just surviving the Conjuring. And then and that's why that hit the mainstream, because it's really relatable. And when you have an It, the reason that hits the mainstream, it's not just because it's a good movie, because it's so relatable, and that's something we talked about a lot during the movie. And I think that's the big strength about it. And whereas part 2 lacked a little bit in relatability, a small bit, and that's why it just half the numbers. You know what I mean? And it's in the numbers, But I think It Chapter 1, it's a solid film all the way through. You get the action, as you said, the scares, the human parts of the story. And I think 4 years on now, it's nearly half a decade since it came out. All the special effects look like as if it was made this year.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
no, cutting edge. Yeah.
the movie is the money is right there on the screen.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to help it age really, really well over the next 5-10 years, maybe. You know?
Absolutely.
So we get the fuck out of here.
Get the fuck out of here.
All right, folks. This is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel and Vinnie.
We got Karen Mack in the back, and thanks for joining us for another episode. We'll be back soon, It Chapter 2, and see you next time, motherfuckers.
Peace.